Welcome back to NUIC Football. I am your host, Kyle Kampmeyer. We had a great week of football this past week as we were able to crown a state champion in IHSA with the Amboy Clippers beating the Milledgeville Missiles 42-14 in that game. And we have another team looking to bring home a state title this week as Lena Winslow beat Leroy 42-13 to book their fifth consecutive trip to the state championship game. We'll recap both those games coming up next.
Need a fresh look for your home? Neff Paints, based in Warren, Illinois, is the local expert in interior and exterior painting, staining, and power washing. Serving Galena, Dubuque, Lake Carroll, Apple Canyon Lake, Lena, and beyond, Neff Paints uses premium products for lasting quality. Contact Skylar at 815-541-7338 for a free estimate and let your home shine inside and out.
The IHSA State Championship game took place at Monmouth College on Friday, and it featured two NUIC teams as Amboy squared off with Milledgeville. Two of the best teams that we've actually seen all season long in IHSA action met, and it was really, the energy for the game was very high. And when you take a look at just the game in itself, you know, Milledgeville had a lot of things going good for it early in the game. Through the first series, they were able to get a 3-and-out, force a punt. They returned that punt to the 37-yard line of the Clippers. But from there, it pretty much went awry as the Amboy line could do whatever they wanted as they needed throughout the course of the game and strategically built up to a 20-0 lead that they were able to take into halftime with them. To start the second half, Milledgeville did receive the ball and were able to make some things happen to re-energize the crowd and, you know, get the Missiles back into the game, at least momentarily, as they scored on their opening possession of the second half to make the score 20-8. Amboy then was able to 26-14. That really made the game, basically a more interesting game. There was a lot of momentum on Milledgeville's side at that point in the game as they had outscored Amboy on the Caden Heath returned that one 49 yards for the score, which ultimately put the daggers into the game as Amboy was then able to increase their lead back to the 20-point lead that they had at the half. Then they had final score, really able to control both sides of the line of scrimmage the majority of the game. And that's something that we definitely saw a lot out of. But then what the final score was, but Amboy definitely showed their dominance in that game as well. That projected them to that 42-14 final score. Either way, Milledgeville made their first ever state championship run. They come away as the state runner-up for the first time in school history, so still a remarkable year for the Missiles. As for Amboy, they win back-to-back state titles. They become just the second team in IHSA history to do so. They are the first team ever to make 3 consecutive state championship appearances in IHSA in the short history that it's had. And Monmouth College, and are going to arguably want to be one of the favorites once again coming back next season. They're going to have to replace some key players once again, and we'll see how that formulates into what they have going on in 2025. But it should be very interesting as they should be able to recapture some of the experience that they were able to collect this year on another state championship run. So hats off to both these teams. You both represented the NUIC extremely well all season long. And, you know, the state championship game, we knew that one team was going to win, one team was going to lose. Unfortunately, the gap between the differential was a little bit higher than what we anticipated. But either way, stellar seasons for both teams all season long. Congratulations to the Amboy Clippers bringing home the 4th state title in IHSA history back to the NUIC. Milledgeville collects the 3rd state runner-up for the NUIC in the IHSA title game, joining Orangeville, Amboy, and now Milledgeville. So, great season. Congratulations to both teams on a successful run.
This portion of our broadcast is brought to you by Diedrich Epoxy Flooring. Serving northern Illinois and southern Wisconsin, Diedrich Epoxy is the source for all of your epoxy needs. Give Diedrich Epoxy Flooring a call today at 815-239-1158 for your free estimate.
In our NUIC matchup, Lena Winslow had to travel down to Leroy, where they came away with a 42-13 win. And, going down to that game was a very interesting take. It was really a very nice drive down last Saturday morning. And once we got there, it was excellent feel. I can't speak enough of the ambiance and just that small school, high school football field feel that Leroy had. It really resembled a lot of things that take you back in time to the old days where there weren't tracks surrounding the football fields and the fans were standing on top of the field. And that's really what it felt in Leroy. I mean, you had the media lines painted around the field and fans were circled around the entire field. It really took me back to the glory day feelings. It was a great atmosphere all the way around. I even stayed long enough. I think I was the second to last car to leave that day. It just had that great old time football field feel to it. And hats off to Leroy and their fans and their coaching staff. I was able to meet with them before the game as well. Very appreciative of what we do here at NUIC football. And likewise, I really enjoyed talking with a lot of their fans throughout the course of the season on social media, and being able to talk to a few of them as well before the game, after the game, really was very, very exciting for me. And hats off to a great community there. As far as the game, I felt that Leroy came in that game living up to the hype that they had built up all season. I mean, they definitely looked the part. They were a team that was very well built, very well disciplined in everything that they did. But at the end of the day, the speed of Lena Winslow on the line of scrimmage eventually took its toll on Leroy as they could really no longer keep up. And then you started to see the domino effect really start to take place. Lena Winslow got up early on an Aiden Wild touchdown run after both teams exchanged punts to start the game. And then Leroy came back with the pass to make it an 8-7 game. And later on, towards the end of the second quarter, Alex Schlichting broke free for a 74-yard touchdown run that then extended that lead for Lena Winslow to 16-7 at the break. And a bunch of us were talking at halftime that Lena Winslow was able to receive the ball to start the second half. And if they were able to capitalize on that and score, it would almost be a moment of lights out for Leroy. And Lena Winslow did go down. They scored emphatically to take a 24-7 lead. They then were able to get another score via an interception, return for a touchdown. And that really took the score to 32-7 at that point. And it was, or 26-7, I think. I can't remember. It was 22. It was 22-7, and then it was 28-7. That's right. And then there was another score in there as well that really started to break it open. That made it 34-7. And then before Leroy was able to get back on the board. But that's where you could really tell that it really started to break open for the Lee Win Panthers in this game. Obviously, both teams being called Panthers. But, hats off to Leroy on a great season, a great run. They wanted to test themselves against the likes of Lena Winslow. They were able to see that. One of the things that Coach B.J. Zalesnik even said was, Lena Winslow just does so many things right. And, he's never seen a team that continues to come at you time and time again for all four quarters and do so with, great execution. I mean, he said it best. That they're not perfect, but how they play is just so hard to replicate, and the way that they can get off the ball, the way that they get their blocks in, they just do so many things that at the end of the day, it just starts to build and build and build. And, a couple of my friends were there, and we were talking as well, that the game kind of went really the way that we had thought it would. We knew it would be a close game in the first half, and then just talking about it, if Lena Winslow can break it open in the second half, it's going to start to snowball, and that's what we eventually did see here. So, but one of the brightest things that you can always say about a team that goes down is a team that goes down with a valiant effort, and Leroy never stopped fighting, and that's, at the end of the day, that's what you want to see. You want to see two teams put up their best fight, and for the Leroy Panthers, they have nothing to hang their head about. They did go up against a very dominant team in the Lena Winslow Panthers, and they went down swinging, and that's all you can ask for at the end of the day. As far as Lena Winslow goes, they booked their fifth consecutive trip to the state championship game, and they will head to ISU this week to play Althoff Catholic, who was a 58-19 winner over Camp Point Central in the other semifinal game. So that pits the number 1 and number 2 ranked teams in the state going up against each other for the state championship. You really couldn't script out these playoffs any better. You had ideally the top 4 teams remaining in the semifinals, and you have the top 2 teams remaining ready to duke it out for a state championship at Hancock Stadium. And we're going to talk about that game coming up right now. Our state championship matchup takes us to Hancock Stadium at Illinois State University, where Lena Winslow will take on Althoff Catholic. Both teams enter this game perfect at 13-0. And it is going to be a big game here, as we have some very electric players on the Althoff side of the ball going up against some very hard-fought kids on the Lee Win side of the ball. Looking at Althoff Catholic, everything runs through D. Air Hill Jr., the Oregon commit, who has rushed for 2,150 yards and 34 touchdowns on the season. He's also caught the ball for 303 yards and another 5 touchdowns on the year as well. Helping out at the quarterback position is the sophomore Jaden Ellington, who has really come into his own this year and brings another challenge for teams to be able to stop. He has passed for 1,870 yards for a 73% completion rate, throwing for 31 touchdowns to only 4 interceptions on the season. And he has also started to become more adept at taking off and running in the run game, as they tend to play more of a 10 and 11 multiple offense, allowing them to be able to utilize Hill in motion and or from the running back position, and basically be able to run read option out of those play calls. Charleston Colden is the Boston College commit. He has caught the ball for 766 yards and 11 touchdowns, the primary target for Jaden Ellington on the season, but also there's other guys that Jaden Ellington is able to connect with. On the defensive side of the ball, Jason Dowell mans the defensive tackle spot. He is the Mizzou commit, who has 68 tackles on the season. Drake Mosley at linebacker leads the Crusaders in tackles with 87 on the season, and Baron Vaughn, one of the smaller guys on the Althoff defense, is second on the team in tackles at 69. On the other side of the ball, Lena Winslow is led by Alex Schlichting, who has rushed for 1,856 yards and 24 touchdowns. Aiden Wild at fullback has picked up 1,304 yards and 21 touchdowns as well. Joining them in the backfield will be Jalen Rakowska and Jimmy Goebel, two guys that have contributed to over 300 yards rushing apiece and have also picked up some big touchdown runs as the season has gone on. Jalen Rakowska obviously being the bigger contributor in that situation. He is the all-stater, and he also leads the area defensively in interceptions. The defense is led by linebackers Landon Gritty, Jimmy Goebel, and Kobe Kearns. And then on the defensive line, you have Luke Kemple, Aiden Wild, Gannon Ducker, and Preston Schultz. That line, most of it also replicates itself as the offensive line, with Grindy moving from linebacker to guard, and then you also have Duncan Neville at center. So, two different styles of offenses here. Althoff Catholic running more of a spread style offense and a 10 and 11 multiple, sometimes maybe going to a 12 multiple, but you're going to see even a 0-1 multiple, but they definitely can change the pace of the game quickly. They have a lot of team speed, which a lot of people are talking about. One thing that you do see out of Althoff Catholic is that they do fly to the ball defensively. They do a great job of getting upfield, and really when you break this game down, team speed, you got to give the check mark to Althoff Catholic in this one, because they definitely have that. Size, you're going to have to give the check mark to Althoff Catholic. They come in offensively on the line. They are the biggest line across all 8 classes, averaging 298 pounds across the front at a height of 6'4". Yes, that's right, 6'4", 298 is the average size of the offensive line for Althoff Catholic. On the defensive line, they sit a little bit smaller, about 6'2" and 244 pounds, but still very electric on both sides of the ball. Mosley himself is the linebacker. He stands at 6'2", 220. So obviously Althoff Catholic brings a lot of size. They have a lot of team speed. But Lena Winslow also has some team speed too. This team is definitely a lot faster than what they were a season ago. An experienced team at that. This year's seniors are making their 56th appearance in a game, which means that they are one of very few to have played their entire career and got to the state championship game every single season, as Lena Winslow is making their fifth consecutive trip to the state title game. Keys to success for both these teams, obviously for Althoff Catholic, they're going to want to be able to get the ball to De'Air Hill Jr. They're going to be able to want to run that option offense where they can either read the defense and give it to Hill, and or Ellington keeps it and runs off tackle. But, a lot of the running that they do goes between the tackles. For Lena Winslow, that's typically where they're the very best at, is being able to cut off the tackles, and they do a great job of sealing off the edge. While the size of the line favors Althoff Catholic, where Lena Winslow could find some success and will be one of their biggest keys to success, is winning that line battle up front. They are faster at getting off the ball than what Althoff Catholic is, based off of a lot of different films I've seen so far this season on both teams. And, really, Lena Winslow, that's their bread and butter. Win the line of scrimmage and attack. And as long as they can play to their abilities to play their style of football and break through the gaps and play fundamental defense, stay home, and attack, and not sit back and wait, they should find themselves having some success. Now, there's obviously been a lot of commotion going on the social medias between X and Facebook about, Lena Winslow's going to get railroaded. Althoff Catholic's too good. There's no way that Althoff Catholic can be stopped and all this other jazz. Here's one thing that people forget, okay? First off, the coaching staff of Lena Winslow has been through this before. They've had to play IC Catholic in 3A back in 2002. They had to play IC Catholic again in 2A back in 2008. Those were the first 2 years that IC Catholic went on to win their first 2 state championships. So it's not like this is something that they have not seen before. And those were in the early years of this coaching staff, to where those were some things that they really had to key on and present themselves in order to face the challenges to get their program to where it's currently at. Second, the last time that we had a team like this caliber that was heavily talked about was, back in 2016 and again in 2018. 2016, it was St. Teresa, with Jacardia Wright and, the Bulldog offense that was going to be too fast to tame and all this other stuff. And Forston quietly came in and punched him in the mouth and didn't really allow anything to happen. And really, that defense for Forston is very similar to what the defense for Lena Winslow currently is as well. They're a faster defense. They play downhill. They're able to seal off that edge. Now, one of the concerns for Lena Winslow is going to be in pass coverage. You have to be able to pick up, especially, Colston going downfield or Hill coming out of the backfield and or from the slot receiver position on a quick slant or something to that level in order to have that success. Because if one of those guys gets behind you, Ellington can deliver the ball. I mean, this kid's not getting D1 looks because he's just playing with a bunch of great talent around him. He clearly can play the game. His numbers show that. And while, yes, he is only a sophomore, he has definitely matured a lot from last year to this season and is very capable of running this offense, of which, Coach Frazier is definitely very comfortable with letting him be the guy that runs this offense. So there's a lot of trust there as far as having a sophomore quarterback running your offense at a very high level as well. Likewise for Lena Winslow, they're going to have to be able to control the ball. You got to be able to control the ball against these guys. And provided that they can win that line of scrimmage and be able to get to the second level and at least move the ball a little bit time and time again, that 3 yard in a cloud of dust philosophy. These are the type of games that you want to be able to control the clock and grind it out and really be able to start to decimate your opponent from the inside out. I mean, Althoff Catholic has something that most 1A schools don't have. They have a full offense and a full defense. There's only one player that plays both ways, and that's Charleston Colden, who plays receiver on offense and he plays defensive back on defense. So they're going to be fresh a lot. The more you can stay on the offensive side of the ball and grind out the clock and continue to sustain drives, get deep in territory and capitalize on those opportunities to get the ball in the end zone, the more clock you're going to chew up. You utilize your offense as a defense, and then on top of that, defensively, you play your style of defense, and you're going to have a puncher's chance here. And that's what a lot of people don't realize, okay? Everybody's talking about all these big schools that Althoff Catholic has played, and yes, they have. They've played some schools that have made it in the playoffs in 8A and 7A and 3A. The thing is that only one of those teams made it out of the first round. And you can put all the numbers you want in front of that A, but it does not mean anything about being good at football. What it means is that you have a lot of kids in your school. And we've seen that play out time and time again. This ain't the first time Lena Winslow's gone up against a big school. 2 years ago, they beat DePaul Prep. Where's DePaul Prep playing at this weekend? They're playing in the 4A state championship game. Where are they going to be next year? They're probably going to be a 7A or 8A team, depending on their projected enrollment increase plus the multiplier. So, this ain't the first rodeo for these guys. We've seen Lena Winslow play 5A schools in the past. We're talking about a team that, yes, based off of being a private school, if you multiplied their enrollment, they would be in Class 3A. But here's the thing. They're still a private school. They're playing by the rules. Yes, their enrollment has brought them to 288, and they're in Class 1A. So, I'm not one of those guys that makes excuses on, oh my gosh, if Lena Winslow loses, it's because Althoff Catholic is a school that should be in Class 3A. And I can guarantee you that's not what Lena Winslow's looking like. See, that's what I love about our conference. We're a conference that's been able to show and prove that we can go up against those metrics, and more times than not, we come away with the victory. This is going to be a tall task. I don't want to sound cocky or arrogant because I'm not. This is going to be a tall task for Lena Winslow. There is a lot of opportunity here for Lena Winslow to find success. This is a better Lena Winslow team than what we saw last year. A lot of people are already referring to, well, they beat Camp Point Central this year, 58-19. But what you forget to realize is Camp Point Central was a veteran-savvy team a season ago, and they only returned 5 of those starters this year. They were not the same team. This Lena Winslow team is a lot faster than what last year's Lena Winslow team is. Yes, they had to move some parts around. They had to change some things up. But overall, a lot of their position changes have been increases in value to what the program is this season. And with that, they find themselves in an opportunity to be playing in their 5th consecutive state championship game, their 6th state championship game in the last 7 seasons, and their 8th state championship game since 2010. It's by no accident that these guys are here. If you take a look at what Lena Winslow has done in these playoffs, it's exactly what we see more powerful Lena Winslow teams do. They have challenges in the regular season, whether it's moving people around, trying to figure out what they can or can't do, or going up against opponents that are very familiar with what they do, such as a Galena and a Stockton, teams that are very familiar with what they do. But when they meet up with those kinds of teams the second time around in the playoffs, it's usually up against a different pedigree of a Lena Winslow team. And they usually, more times than not in recent years, get a more decisive win the second time that they win or play. That's not common. Usually it's the other way around. Lena Winslow tends to reverse that trend more times than not. If you don't believe me, just go back and look it up. It's not hard to find. But what they do have to do is they have to be able to attack defensively, and they have to be able to attack offensively as well. They're going to have to be able to do some things within their level of skill set that is going to allow them to control the clock. There's nothing that they're going to do that is going to help them win if they have to get into a bombs away contest. That's not their style of game. So if Althoff is to start to get out to a big lead, the best thing that Lena Winslow can do is just slow the game down even more to allow themselves to stay in that presence. Easier said than done, of course. Obviously, a lot of talent here on this Althoff team. Take a look back at the 2018-2019 years. Lena Winslow was very similar to this kind of talent with Isaiah Bruce and Jennings Dunker and Sean Ormiston, Parker McGee, guys that all either went Division I and or had Division I offers, whether they took them or not, depending on what they were. Either way, it doesn't matter. They were there at that kind of an elite level. One of the funny things I do see, though, is a lot of chatter on X about, Althoff Catholics played all these big schools, and they have. There's no doubt about that they have. But you also have to look at the pedigree of the big schools that they're playing. They're not playing the powerhouses that you're used to seeing, and I don't care what classification it's in. There's a lot of those schools that don't play good football, regardless of how many kids they have, what size A number they have in front of the A. It don't matter. We've seen it time and time and time again. You have to be able to suit up and play. That's what I always say. So If Althoff were to win, good for them. Tip your cap. This is an opportunity to see a bunch of great athletes collectively take the field. These two teams have both earned their right to be here. They're the top two teams we've been talking about all season long. So it's not a surprise that this is our state championship game, and the excitement for that should be there. I'm tired of hearing about, Althoff should be here, Althoff should be there. It's not fair. Well, guess what? If it weren't all that fair, then I would assume that there would be more schools out there putting proposals together to try to change that. The thing is, there's only 49 private schools in the entire IHSA, which means that public schools outnumber them by a mile and would win a proposal vote hands down if that were the case. Clearly, something does not want to change, or nobody wants to propose that change. And there's a lot of factors to that why. You take out the average of 49 schools across 8 classes, that's like 6.3 schools per class or something like that. 6.1, something like that. You know how many private schools were in the Class 1A playoffs this year? 7. Only 1 made it past the second round, and that's the one we're talking about today. So I don't care. If you really want to break down the disparities of private schools, really the classifications that are affected the most are Class 3A, 5A, 7A, and 8A. Well, 7A and 8A, you can't get much bigger than that anyway, and most of the private schools that are playing in 7A and 8A don't even have enrollments that are playing in that level. They're just there because either A, they have the multiplier and have to play there. Some of them do have a little bit of the class size that garners them to be there even without a multiplier, but that's where they're at. And then, 5A has been forever a breeding ground of the Catholic school success, especially in the Chicago Catholic League. That's where a lot of those teams sit. Your Joliet Catholics on most occasions. Montini Catholic is usually a 5A school. You have Providence Catholic, Brother Rice. You got all these other schools that just, they're there. Brother Rice is usually bigger than 5A, but still, you get the point. At the end of the day, you got to suit up and play. Nobody's breaking the rules here. I'm tired. That's another thing that we hear. Althoff's got kids from Cahokia. They got kids from Vashon. They're bringing in kids across the river. Well, guess what? Belleville sits right on the river. What's within that area? The Metro East area of St. Louis. So it is what it is, and as long as they're following the rules and they're doing everything that they're supposed to be doing to have kids come to their school, that's great on them. They're getting kids to their school. That's, at the end of the day, that's what you need. Either way, you're not going to hear excuses from me, and I don't think anybody has the right to make any excuses depending on either way this game goes. This is a game of two very talented football teams. One of them has a lot of Division I players on it. Sit back and watch this talent. This is what you want a state championship game to be. And that's what's exciting about it. I'm very excited for this game. There's a lot of intrigue in this game. You have a spread offense that has never played this late in the year in these cold of a temperatures on this big of a stage. You have a team on the other side of the ball that's going to be outsized by a mile, but they are used to playing at this time of year in the big lights on the big stage where they've won more times than they've lost. So, I look back at like 3rd and Lang, between Edgy Tim and Matt Lang. They both talked about this game. They talked about how intriguing it is. This is probably one of the biggest matchups you're going to watch all weekend long, where a lot of people are really taking a look to see or tune in to see what happens in this game. You have a traditional 1A power in Lena Winslow going up against a private school with a lot of high caliber athletes that don't have a lot of long-term success at the state level. So it's going to be interesting. And it should be a lot of fun. And, like I said, there's definitely ways for Lena Winslow to win this game. You go back and you listen to Edgy and Coach Lang talk about it. They have also put out their own opinions on what could and or transpire in this game as well. Everybody sees it, except the common fan, that there are opportunities for Lena Winslow to be in this game. They're going to come into this game as by far the heavy underdog. In theory, by paper, they're actually the favorite by 2.5 points. But everybody knows that Althoff is the favorite. I mean, it's obvious. How can you have that much talent and not be the favorite in this game? Anybody that would say otherwise just does not pay attention to football at the level that it's at. For Lena Winslow, yeah, they have the bullseye on their back a lot of the time. But this time they can go into normal knowing that they're the underdog. Win or lose, they really don't have nothing to lose here because everybody is probably expecting them to lose, hoping that they might win, at least in our area anyway. I can't speak for other areas, but I know that they're definitely getting a lot of people from this area. And, I mean, there's people from around the state, too, that want to see Lena Winslow win just because they enjoy seeing Lena Winslow play football. But Althoff's the real deal. They are the real deal. They're big, they're fast, they can score in a hurry. And that's one of the things that you got to really watch for in this matchup here, and that's going to be one of the keys that Lena Winslow has to take away. If Lena Winslow can't take it away, this game's going to be over in a hurry. And that's why I said if Althoff starts to get up big, quick, that's where Lena Winslow's going to have to slow the game down. And at the same time, as long as they're slowing the game down and they can sustain their drives, they're going to be in this ball game. There's at this time of the year, it comes down to execution, discipline, not making silly mistakes or getting silly penalties, and taking care of the football, And, as far as taking care of the football, both these teams do it very well. As far as penalties, Althoff's committed a lot more penalties than what Lena Winslow is. That's one of the areas that Althoff's going to have to clean up for them to find even more success this weekend in the state championship game. If they can do that, they're definitely going to have a lot more opportunities to win this game. If they continue to commit more penalties than or the same amount of penalties that we've seen over the course of the season, that's going to jeopardize them because that's where Lena Winslow finds a lot of success. They don't make a lot of penalties. That's why they're here on a yearly basis. They do things better than almost everybody, and that's complete execution for all 4 quarters. Somewhere something's got to give, and this should be a fun game. Projections show Lena Winslow winning a close, high-scoring game, 36-34. Time will tell. I know that Althoff's going to come in hungry on this one, as they should. They were probably one of the favorites to get here last year and got upset, and now they've made their way back through perseverance and hard work ethic, and now they're here. So, I'm excited for this matchup. It should be a lot of fun. I'm really excited to see De'Are Hill and Jaden Ellington, Charleston Cole, and Jason Dowell. I like seeing those kinds of guys play because they're once in a generation type of athlete that you don't get to see very often. And, it's really cool that they're going to be able to take the big stage this week and showcase their talents to the state. But at the end of the day, if you've listened to any of the podcasts I've been on earlier this week with Mitch and Greg, my pick to win is Lena Winslow. I do like the fact that they have experience. There are ways for them to exploit the Crusader offense and defense. And I think that as long as they can do those things and execute and play Panther football, this game's going to go down to the wire, and you're going to see a very good football game. So If you're going to the game, make sure you get your tickets. It's $15 a ticket for the state championship game. It's good for all 4 games. Parking is free, which is a great thing. So you don't have to pay to park. It's free parking, $15 a ticket. You basically park anywhere you want around the stadium. There's a lot of parking spots available between Hancock Stadium and CEFCU Arena. If you're not going to the game and want to watch the game, I know I've been getting a lot of messages on where people can watch the game. DirecTV does not have the game. Most of the satellite services do not have the game. So you can listen on bigradio.fm at 102.1. Actually, it probably won't be streaming, so you'll have to get the radio station. They've been having some issues with their live streaming access through the website on that channel. But it is going to be on 102.1 with Don Wernz and John Butters Reed and Stumpy Larry Phillips. Outside of that, NFHS Network will be carrying the game, so you can look there. You can also go to the IHSA.org website. And I've also put other channel listing options into the featured section on our Facebook page. I'm sorry if I can't get you any more information. That's pretty much the best I can do for you. Outside of that, you're going to have to do your own research. I don't have the channel listings that everybody else has. I don't watch a whole lot of high school football at home because I'm usually at the games myself. So, and I'll be there. I'll be down in Bloomington watching this game live. We will have a pregame show on Facebook as well that will be live from Hancock Stadium. I'll be joined with Greg Armstrong and Mitch Stormer from View from the West. Also bringing in our former co-founder, Shane Cleaver, as well for this one, as he'll be making the trip south with us. And then might even have Ty Taylor from WRMJ on it. So it'll be fun. It'll be a lot of build up to the state championship game and what we hope is one of the better state championship games across all 8 classes come Friday morning. Kickoff is at 10 o'clock. If you can't make the game, tune into it. Otherwise, always root for the NUIC.